Did you know that the greatest gift God can entrust to you can also become your greatest vulnerability? Revealing divine secrets before the right time can open doors to envy, doubt, and spiritual battles that you may not be prepared to face. So how do you protect what God has placed in your heart? The answer is simple but powerful: silence, discernment, and faith. Today I'm going to show you how this can transform your spiritual journey. God only entrusts secrets to those He chooses. And if you feel that you carry something special, know that this is not by chance. But here's what no one tells you: carrying this divine purpose requires wisdom. It's not just about what you do, it's about how you protect what you've received. Because the world often isn't ready for what God has revealed to you. And do you know what's even more impressive? Often the battles we face arise precisely because we speak before the time is right. In this video we'll explore how keeping silent can be your greatest spiritual protection. I'll share with you powerful biblical stories like that of Joseph and Mary, and show you why silence is an act of faith that protects the spiritual seeds planted in you. And more. You'll learn how to discern the right moment to act and speak, because every purpose has its perfect timing. So, if you want to discover the secret of those chosen by God and understand how He can transform your life through silence and discernment, stay with me until the end. What I'm about to reveal may be the difference between protecting your purpose or losing it before it even begins. God never entrusts secrets by chance. When He chooses someone to carry divine revelations, it's because He sees something special in that person. A heart prepared to listen, protect, and act according to His will. These revelations are not just words. They are spiritual maps that guide the chosen one along paths that others cannot understand. Imagine being the guardian of a message that could change not only your life but also the lives of those around you. But with this privilege comes a responsibility: knowing what to do with what God has revealed. These secrets can come in many forms. Sometimes they appear in dreams that seem too intense to be ignored, as happened with Joseph. Other times they come as a soft voice in the heart, a calling that cannot be silenced. The important thing is recognizing that these signs are not ordinary, they are a gift. Have you ever felt that something inside you is too great to be explained? That is the beginning of the journey. It's when God starts planting spiritual seeds within you. But here's the challenge: many fail to understand that these seeds need to be kept and protected. Sharing a divine revelation before the right time is like opening a butterfly's cocoon before it is ready to fly. You can damage something that should be beautiful. Therefore, it's essential to keep your heart guarded, trusting that God knows the exact moment for things to unfold. It's in this silence that blessings begin to take shape. What few realize is that keeping a divine secret is also an act of faith. It's telling God, "I trust in your plan and your timing." But how can you resist the urge to share something so grand? How do you protect what God has placed in you? This is the power of silence, and that's what we'll explore next. Silence is a force that few understand, but it holds extraordinary power. For God's chosen ones, it is the first line of defense against attacks that can arise when sacred revelations are exposed before the right time. Think of Joseph. He eagerly shared his dreams with his brothers, but instead of support he received envy and betrayal. Imagine if he had kept those dreams in silence, allowing God to work without human interruption. Silence is often an invisible shield against envy and spiritual battles. But keeping silence is not just about not speaking. It's about learning to listen before acting. It's a spiritual practice that requires patience and trust. In everyday life, this could mean resisting the urge to share good news or personal plans in a moment of excitement. Instead, you might turn to prayer. Before any action or word, ask God, "Is this the right moment? Is this the right person to hear this?" This habit can avoid unnecessary frustrations and preserve what is most sacred. We live in a world that values sharing: social media, conversations, constant validations. But the chosen ones of God understand that not everything should be exposed. Keeping silence is not weakness, it's a demonstration of wisdom and discernment. When you protect your divine revelations, you're sending a clear message to the universe: I trust in God's plan, and I don't need others' approval to validate it. And it's interesting to realize how silence creates space for God to act. While you guard your heart, He moves the pieces, aligns the circumstances, and prepares the ground for the fulfillment of the divine purpose. But how do we maintain this balance between guarding and sharing? This leads us to reflect on how spiritual seeds need to be carefully nurtured and tended until they are ready to bloom. The divine revelations that God entrusts to you are like seeds, small, yet full of potential to transform lives. Just as a seed needs fertile soil, light, and care, God's promises also need to be protected and nurtured with patience. Imagine receiving a spiritual secret and, out of anxiety or excitement, exposing it to a hostile environment. It would be like planting a seed in rocky soil where it cannot grow. God teaches us that these spiritual seeds must be kept until the right moment. Taking care of these seeds is an act of wisdom and trust. It is allowing God to work behind the scenes, even when you do not see immediate results. Think of a farmer who plants, waters, and waits for the harvest. He does not dig up the seed every day to see if it's growing. Similarly, God's promises require faith. A practical example? Write down the promises and dreams that God has placed in your heart in a journal. Review these words during prayer, strengthening your confidence that He will fulfill them at the right time. But what happens when these seeds are exposed too soon? It is in these moments that attacks arise, doubts, envy, and even opposition. Joseph experienced this when he shared his dreams. He faced spiritual battles that could have been avoided if he had kept silent. However, God used even these challenges to fulfill His plan. This teaches us that although we may make mistakes, God's grace always redirects us. Still, we are called to protect what He has entrusted to us to minimize unnecessary obstacles. When you care for spiritual seeds, you are cultivating your faith and allowing them to grow until they bear fruit. It is an internal growth process that requires patience, prayer, and discernment. But how do you know if the moment to germinate has arrived? This is where the wisdom of biblical stories comes in, showing us the power of trusting in God's perfect timing. The Bible is filled with examples that show us how to handle divine revelations and the challenges they bring. Joseph, for instance, received grand dreams from God but revealed these visions to his brothers without discernment. The result? Jealousy and betrayal. He was sold as a slave, and his journey was filled with spiritual battles. However, God's grace turned everything around to fulfill His divine purpose. This story teaches us that even the chosen ones can face unnecessary difficulties when they don't guard their secrets. On the other hand, Mary, the mother of Jesus, is an example of wisdom in guarding her heart. When the angel revealed to her that she would give birth to the Savior, Mary did not run to tell everyone. She kept the words in her heart, reflecting in silence and trusting in God's will. Mary's attitude shows us that guarding a divine secret is not a weakness but an act of faith and wisdom. When you protect what God has revealed, you are allowing Him to work in the unseen, preparing the perfect path. Even King David faced situations that required silence and discernment. During the years he fled from Saul, David had several opportunities to take revenge, but he chose to wait for God's timing. He understood that the divine purpose did not need to be rushed. This patience, rooted in faith, is a powerful lesson. When you trust God's plan, you don't need to worry about justifying or rushing things. Everything happens at the right time. These stories are not just ancient narratives, they directly apply to your life today. When God entrusts something to you, He also expects you to have the wisdom to protect and care for that revelation. But how do you apply this wisdom in your daily life? How do you ensure that your actions align with God's will? This is where the importance of understanding spiritual protection comes in, which goes beyond silence. Protecting what God entrusts to you is more than an act of wisdom, it is a spiritual necessity. Revealing divine secrets prematurely can expose you to attacks from the most unexpected places. Jealousy, doubts, and even spiritual battles arise when something sacred is shared with people who are not prepared to understand or support it. Think of it this way, a divine secret is like a delicate flame. Without proper care, it can be extinguished by opposing winds. Spiritual protection begins with the decision to guard your heart. This means recognizing that not everyone around you has the capacity or intention to understand what God has placed in you. It can be tempting to share great dreams or revelations with friends, colleagues, or even family, but it is essential to ask, is this person trustworthy? Do they have enough faith to support my purpose? Sometimes, keeping silence is the most powerful way to protect your journey. And don't be mistaken, spiritual protection is not just about you, it is also about allowing God to work without interference. When you keep your secrets with Him, you are trusting that His plan is greater than any approval you may seek from others. Think of Mary, the mother of Jesus. By keeping the angel's words in her heart, she allowed God to shape each step of the divine plan without human interference. Her silence was a shield against external criticism and doubt. Keeping what is sacred protected does not mean hiding out of fear but trusting that God's timing is perfect. It is in silence that you find strength, discernment, and clarity to face the challenges ahead. But how do you know when it is safe to share? How do you align your actions with God's will? The answer lies in prayer and discernment, tools that connect you directly with the Creator. Prayer is the foundation that supports the discernment of God's chosen ones. When you pray, you open a direct line of communication with the Creator, allowing him to guide your thoughts and decisions. It is no coincidence that Jesus, before making any important decision, always sought the presence of the Father in prayer. This practice is not merely a spiritual routine but a source of wisdom that helps distinguish the right moment to act or remain silent. Have you ever tried starting your day by asking God for guidance? It may seem simple, but it completely transforms the way you face each challenge. Discernment is not just knowing what is right or wrong, it is understanding what is appropriate for the moment. Imagine that God has placed a great idea or purpose in your heart. Before rushing to share it, ask yourself, is this the right time? Am I prepared for what comes next? Prayer helps answer these questions with clarity. A powerful habit is to reserve a moment each day to be silent before God, surrendering your doubts and asking for wisdom. Try this and see how He illuminates paths that once seemed confusing. Furthermore, prayer strengthens your spiritual protection. By seeking God's guidance, you not only receive answers but also gain the strength to resist external pressures. The Bible tells us to put on the armor of God, and prayer is the link that connects each piece of that armor. Before making a decision or sharing something significant, pray. Ask God to show you who is trustworthy and who is not, and trust that He will reveal it to you at the right time. Prayer and discernment not only help you protect what God has entrusted to you, they also bring you closer to His divine purpose. When you silence the world around you and connect with God, you begin to realize that He is always working, even in the moments when you don't see results. Now, with all of this in mind, how can you practically apply this wisdom and transform your spiritual journey? Let's bring everything we've learned so far together and reach the climax of this journey. Now, here is the most powerful moment of this journey. Understanding that silence, discernment, and spiritual protection are not just tools, they are acts of faith that shape your future. When God entrusts something to you, He is saying, I see something in you that the world has yet to see. But for this purpose to flourish, you need to protect it with all your might. Revealing something before its time is like exposing a treasure to thieves. And do you know what's most impressive? God doesn't need noise to act. He works in silence, in the invisible, aligning everything in your favor. What you may not have realized up until now is that keeping a divine secret is not just about protecting a revelation. It's about protecting yourself. Every time you choose to trust God and guard your heart, you are strengthening yourself spiritually. It's in the silence that faith grows, discernment deepens, and spiritual battles are won before they even begin. What God has entrusted to you is unique, and how you care for it determines the impact it will have on your life and the lives of others. Now imagine this, God is already working on your behalf. While you place your trust in Him, He is moving pieces, preparing people, and aligning opportunities that you can't even imagine. But all of this depends on one thing: your willingness to trust, to wait, and to protect what He has placed in your hands. The world may try to pressure you to speak, act, or justify yourself, but God is calling you to something greater, to guard the silence and allow Him to be your defender. So I ask you, what has God placed on your heart today? Are you willing to keep this secret, protect this purpose, and trust that His timing is perfect? Because in the end, what is at stake is not just the fulfillment of a promise, it is the growth of your faith, the strength of your spirit, and the depth of your relationship with God. This is the call of the chosen ones, and now it's up to you to decide how you will respond. Now that you understand the power of silence, the importance of protecting spiritual seeds, and the need to fully trust in God's timing, the final question is, what will you do with all of this? Keeping a divine secret is not just an action, it's a demonstration of faith and wisdom. It's an invitation to walk closer to God, allowing Him to reveal the complete plan at the perfect time. The decision to protect or expose what He has entrusted to you is what separates those who live in faith from those who get lost in the distractions of the world. Think about everything that has been said. Joseph, Mary, David, all of them faced moments when they had to trust God more than their own strength. And now it's your turn. What are you willing to do to protect what God has placed in your heart? How can you start applying discernment and prayer in your life? Perhaps it's time to review your actions, identify who truly deserves to hear your plans, and above all, return your dreams to God, trusting that He will take care of every detail. The spiritual life is a field where battles are fought in silence and victories are won with faith. God has already given you the tools: silence, discernment, prayer, and spiritual protection. All He asks from you is to trust Him. Remember, God is neither late nor early. He acts at the perfect moment, and when you guard your heart and walk in silence, you allow Him to manifest the divine plan without interference. Now I challenge you, start today. Take a moment to reflect, to pray, and to protect what God has placed in your life. And if this message spoke to your heart, share it with someone who also needs to hear it. Subscribe to the channel and activate the notifications to continue learning about how to strengthen your spiritual walk and live fully in divine purpose. You are God's chosen one, and what He has entrusted to you is too precious to be neglected. Let's together protect and honor this calling.